Who knew things weren't clear in terms of space either? As confusing as it might sound, a part of the moon is in danger right now, and it's unknown whose property is going straight to the moon. With a potentially dangerous material heading to the moon, it won't be surprising to us if any finger pointing begins to show up anytime soon. Two concerned parties might have their piece of technology ending up on the wrong side of the moon. If you like videos like these, do leave a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. The current situation. These two parties are the China National Space Administration and none other than Elon Musk's SpaceX. The blame game has already been underway between the two companies because both will cause significant damage to the moon, and we don't know which one it is. SpaceX is the most prominent private space organization globally, and coming up against the space agency might be something big. Still, it would have been better if these two were locking horns with each other for some time, better in terms of competition. It is said that the part of this rocket may be a booster from the Chinese launch or a part of SpaceX's Falcon 9. An astronomer, Bill Gray, said in his blog that the booster was floating around for 7 years now from a SpaceX 9 rocket, and it was very likely to hit the moon. Suppose things carry on like this, then this accident will take place. Although Gary said before that the part was from the Falcon 9 rocket, it now seems as if he's going to stick to his original view because he believes that the part of the rocket was from China's Change 5 T1 mission and was launched in 2014. Before we tell you the final verdict on who's originator of that piece of the rocket which is destined to crash to the moon, we are going to detail you on both the spacecraft, starting first with SpaceX's Falcon 9. Moving on, we're going to discuss the Change 5 T1, which is China's robotic spacecraft from which the parts might end up crashing into the moon, and then we shall move on to SpaceX's Falcon 9 spacecraft, which is more or less going to do the same thing. Chao 5 T1. The Chao 5 T1 is a robotic spacecraft launched towards the moon on October 23, 2014, and is designed by the Chinese National Space Administration to conduct atmospheric re-entry tests on the capsule, which is planned to be used in the Chang'e 5 mission. This spacecraft was launched in October 2014, where its usual mission duration was expected to be somewhere around 196 hours and a lunar flyby of 97 hours after the insertion of the final orbit. The third stage of the spacecraft was left in orbit between the Earth and the Moon. It is expected to strike the Moon in a few days. Independent spectral analysis was carried out by the staff of the University of Arizona, which helped confirm the identity of this specific part. Confirmation is received whether the part is from this spacecraft or SpaceX's Falcon 9. The impact on the moon is expected to be a great one, and footage is expected to be recorded. How bad of an impact will this have on the moon is yet to be seen because it's only after the impact happens can the intensity of the damage be calculated. The stage of the rocket is expected to slam into the far side of the moon on March 4th, and it won't be visible from the Earth. On the error which Gray made, he has also given a detailed explanation as to why he did so. Prompted by John's email, I dug into my email archives to remind myself why I had originally identified the object as the upper stage of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket that launched the Deep Space Climate Observatory Discover in the first place 7 years ago. I did that digging in full confidence it would prove that the object was in fact the Discover second stage. Gray wrote in his update. Gray previously utilized data from the Catalina Sky Survey, which tracked objects that passed close by from the Earth. This was done to assess threats that might be coming towards the Earth. Catalina managed to detect an object a month after the Discover's launch, which was designed as WE0913A, and at first it was believed to be a natural object. This theory was soon debunked because it was nowhere near that. Sometime after that, an astronomer in Brazil noted that the same object was orbiting the Earth on a news group. This suggested that it might be an artificial object. Gray carried out a conversation with the same astronomer and his research team. He found that the WE0913A went past the moon only 2 days after the launch of Discover. I and others came to accept the identification with the second stage of Falcon 9 as correct. The object had about the brightness we would expect. It had shown up at the expected time and moving in a proper orbit, Gray said. Things messed up because it was seen as the second stage of the Falcon 9, but the evidence was pointing well towards the Chang'e 5 T1. This was now a mind-boggling problem for the astronomers to solve. In hindsight, Gray continued, I should have noticed some odd things about WE0913A's orbit, assuming no maneuvers. It would have been in a somewhat odd orbit around the Earth before the lunar flyby. It would be near the Moon's orbit. At its lowest perigee, about a third of that distance, I'd have expected the perigee to be near the Earth's surface. The perigee seemed quite high. At first, Gary also thought that these variations might be due to the leakage of leftover fuel, which is a common occurrence in old rocket stages. Such a change in the Discover's trajectory would have required an incredible amount of fuel, even for starters. I don't have a trajectory for Discover at the time, and the lunar flyby seemed very plausible, as spacecraft often use a lunar flyby to adjust their orbits. Gray said, but after receiving the email, he searched the records for an object launching not too long before March 2015 in a high orbit going past the Moon, that few spacecrafts achieve. Falcon 9. Rockets from the Falcon 9 have been launched about 145 times over 12 years, resulting in a 98.62% success ratio. The first version of the rocket was the Falcon 9 version 1.0, which was launched 5 times from June 2010 to March 2013. Its successor, the Falcon 9 version 1.1, 15 times from September 2013 to January 2016, and the latest upgrade, Falcon 9 full thrust, 122 times from December 2015 to the present. SpaceX's Falcon 9 is still a part of this debate because this two-stage vehicle is equipped with 1D Merlin rocket engines, 9 sea-level adapted versions of the first stage, and the 1 vacuum adapted version on the second stage. Every single engine on the Falcon 9 uses a pyrophoric mixture of TEA-TEB as the engine's ignition. The first stage has its engines arranged in a structural form regarded as an octaweb at SpaceX to control the descent of the core through the entire atmosphere. SpaceX uses grid fins that deploy from the vehicle after separation. The legs are made to deploy moments before landing takes place. Whose is it? The deeper analysis carried out in this entire process finally pointed the strongest fingers at the Chang'e 5T1. The 5T1 is the most obvious culprit because studies help reveal that the Falcon 9 is straightforward. The orbit does not match that of the Discover Falcon 9. Gray said to correct his initial findings, it resembles the upper stage of the rocket that launched China's 5T1 mission in 2014. Gray, of course, couldn't manage to do this alone because he was helped in the study by Jonathan McDowell, an astronomer at Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics who commonly tracks space objects. With McDowell's sharp eye and Gray's deduction, the piece of rocket wasn't a piece from the rocket after all. It was from the 5T1 spacecraft all along. All of this isn't good enough proof for China, which are still denying that the mission is responsible for such destruction to be caused on the Moon. Things aren't looking good with this piece floating in space and the Moon facing impending danger, which could destroy a considerable part of it. The blame game isn't going to stop anytime soon. This is why whoever's fault it is should just come out to the public and accept that they've messed things up. By the looks of it, it'll be the Chinese who will be doing that. It's not as if this is the first time it's happened that nature had to suffer because of man's shortcomings, just that this time all of it has taken place outside of our Earth. This is all that we had for today's video. If you liked it, then make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos of ours, and we'll see you soon in the following video.